Hi.
Greetings. In Ray Franz, what page?
Page 101, Crisis of Conscience.
And Ray's been talking about the governing body's depressing meetings during this period for much of the time, where it became plain to him at least, and maybe a few others, the majority maybe, that the Watchtower leaders at this point, still Nathan Knorr alive and then Fred Franz after Knorr dies, the Watchtower leaders, the minority of them, but the ones with the most power, seemed to be more interested in precedent and policy than they were in people.
Yeah.
And he makes the example here of their view of alternative service during those decades.
Okay. Alternative service describes civil service offered by a government as an alternative for those who have conscientious objections to participation in military service. Quite a number of enlightened countries offer this alternative to such persons among their citizens. The official position of the Watchtower Society, developed during the Second World War, is that if one of Jehovah's Witnesses accepts such alternative service, he has compromised, has broken integrity with God. The reason behind this is that because this service is a substitute, it therefore takes the place of what it substitutes for, and so, the reasoning apparently goes, comes to stand for the same thing. Since it is offered in place of military service, and since military service involves potentially at least the shedding of blood, then anyone accepting the substitute becomes blood guilty. This remarkable policy, developed before the governing body became a reality, was evidently decided upon by Fred Franz and Nathan Knorr during the period when they produced all major policy decisions.
In obedience to this policy, over the years, literally thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses in different countries around the world have gone to prison rather than accept provisions for alternative service. There are witnesses in prison right now for this reason. Failure to adhere to the Society's policy would mean being viewed automatically as disassociated and being treated the same as if disfellowshipped. And of course, this has all changed, even since Ray wrote this. In November 1977, a letter from a witness in Belgium questioned the reasoning on which this policy was based. This led to the matters being dealt with by the governing body, first on January 28, 1978, then on March the 1st, and again on September the 26th, October the 11th, October the 18th, and November the 15th. Obviously, it was preoccupying them at this time. A worldwide survey was made and letters received from some 90 branch offices. A sizable number indicated that the witnesses in their respective countries had difficulty seeing where there was any scriptural basis for the stand taken. Consider what took place in the governing body. At the October 11th, 1978 meeting of 13 members present, 9 voted in favor of changing the traditional policy so that the decision to accept or reject alternative service would be left to the conscience of the individual. 4 did not vote for this. The result, since there were then 16 members in the body, and since 9 was not 2/3 of 16, no change was made.
On November 15, all 16 members were present and 11 voted for changing the policy so that the witnesses who conscientiously felt he could accept such service would not be automatically categorized as unfaithful to God and disassociated from the congregation. This was a 2/3 majority. Was the change made? No. For after a brief intermission, one of the governing body members announced that he had changed his mind. That destroyed the 2/3 majority. A subsequent vote taken with 15 members present showed 9 favoring a change, 5 against, and 1 abstention. Now he has a footnote here. Do you want to know the names?
Sure.
Okay, he says, according to my records, those voting in favor were John Booth, Ewart Chitty, Ray Franz, George Gangas, Leo Greenlees, Albert Schroeder, Grant Suter, Lyman Swingle, and Dan Sidlick. Those voting against were Kerry Barber, Fred Franz, Milton Henschel, William Jackson, and Carl Klein. Ted how do you say his name? Jaras abstained. Okay. Even though in all these votes a clear majority of the governing body favored removing the existing policy, that policy remained in force, and as a result, witness men were still expected to risk imprisonment rather than accept alternative service, even though they conscientiously felt such was proper in God's sight. Incredible as it may seem, this was the position taken, and most members of the body seemed to accept it all as nothing to be disturbed about. They were, after all, simply following the rules in force. Yeah, that's amazing. I think that probably would be what disturbed them the most, that they're not disturbed.
Yeah.
Rules over people.
In effect, the governing body then are at the mercy of the rules that their ancestors or themselves have created before. It kind of reminds me of that trap that the king of Persia is in the book of Daniel, where he can't change the rules that he's made in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
Because what's the reason? I guess it's saving face in a way, but what kind of power is that?
Yeah. It reminds you of the way the Pharisees dealt with things. The rules were more important than the people.
Yeah.
So we're linking actually one from Matthew when we were going through J.C. Ryle's commentary. And it's, do Jehovah's Witnesses know the Jesus who is Lord of the Sabbath and greater than the temple?
Yeah,
that is what came to my mind.
When the decision was made to get rid of Jesus, as Matthew chapter 12, the turning point of the whole Gospel of Matthew, it all hinges on this. Jesus doesn't keep the rules. He must go. Anybody else who won't keep the rules.
Yeah.
It's depressing to know that the Watchtower that makes so much of the Pharisees, and they're being the type of Christendom, or
they
the clergy of
resemble
Christendom.
them more than anybody else.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, and we'll put the playlist for the Matthew
for Jehovah's Witnesses, covering J.C. Ryle, but also with a lot of commentary from us. See you next time.
Good.